What's up, everybody? SuperDux fan here for an update on the whole Mustang situation. So, as many of you know, my Mustang was crushed on Monday by a bunch of falling tree branches. Thankfully, did not hurt me, but was very scary and completely destroyed the roof and all the supporting pillars there, really, for the Mustang GT. And so, I've been getting a lot of support from you guys, and I thank you so much for all of your support. It's always really, really nice, and it really helps in rough times like this. So I have a bunch of updates here. I've been going back and forth with the insurance adjuster for the past few days here. I've been going and talking with the body shop and all that kind of stuff. So the insurance company has decided not to total the car, just because simply the car is worth too much and the damages are apparently too small to total the car. It's just a matter of the numbers not working out. So the estimate on the car is $10,100, and that's a pretty accurate estimate. They just got it from the body shop that I dropped it off at, that was near the accident site, to the Steel Auto Body where I had it fixed last time, and they just gave it a look over, and they agree that estimate is basically spot on at $10,100. The only thing that could possibly drive up the estimate is if they take down the headliner and find that the airbags are damaged in any way because of that hit on the roof, and if so, even replacing the airbags only drives it up another like $2,000. So so this is one part. The adjuster was claiming my car is worth $29,000, which makes no sense whatsoever, because I did get a diminished value settlement last time there was an accident from the other person's insurance company, and I'll get more into that whole question in a minute here. But so I did get diminished value last time of about $7,000, and so Travelers agreed that the diminished value of my car last year, when it only had 350 miles on it, was $28,000. So add an additional almost 12,000 miles to the car that it now has, an additional year of depreciation. There's no way the car would be worth an extra $1,000. If anything, it's most likely a couple $1,000s lower. So their estimate is a little off as far as what the threshold is for totaling. But even with the adjusted threshold, if we did assume $26,000 is what the car was worth, even still, there's just not enough damage. I think Travelers is a 70% threshold, or 75 maybe even threshold, as far as what it takes to total it. It may even be as high as 80%. So because of that, even if we did assume the airbags were ruined and that had to be replaced at $12,000, it still is so far away from being close to that 75% threshold on a car that still is probably worth almost $26,000. It's just not even close. So we're hardly a little over halfway to a totaling threshold. So it's just way too far off, and this car just will not die. Last time it was $16,000 in damage, but the car is basically brand new, so it was worth $33,000 or whatever they guessed the value was. And so it's just that the car is just always worth a little bit too much for it to be. If I had a base model with no options, it'd probably be totaled. It probably would have been totaled last time if it was a base model with options, but because it's got all the packages, premium, 401A, all that kind of stuff, that drives that price up, and what would normally total another Mustang GT does not total mine. So this is where we're at now, is they're going to fix it. As much as at this point I actually was really hoping they totaled it, as much as I love the car and there really isn't even an identical one to mine available on the used market, I did find one that was close enough that I would be very happy with it, and it would be a perfectly good replacement Mustang. And but it's just the numbers just don't work out. So and that's including all OEM parts, no counterfeit stuff. They do a really good job at this auto body shop. Like I said, last time they did a spectacular job, and so this is with the most expensive parts you can get for it and everything else. It's just, there's no way it's enough damage. And when I first saw it, I immediately thought there's no way this thing won't be totaled, and I know that's what a lot of you were saying as well, but when you get down to it, it's not even close to being totaled, sadly. It doesn't have a salvage title as well. A few people were asking that question about whether or not it has a salvage title. It does not. It's a clean title last time, but it will still be a clean title. It's just a horrible Carfax is all that it has. So other things here, I have a bunch of questions from you guys, and that's because I announced this yesterday evening on Instagram, and I now just got more details that I just shared with you here this afternoon. So that's why I'm making the video now, because I wanted to wait for these additional details. But here's some questions you guys already had from last night on Instagram, and I want to answer all of these before you ask all your questions in the comments and repeat a bunch of them. So the first question is, make sure you get diminished value on the car. And I can't. The reason being is last time I got diminished value was because the other person hit me and I didn't have an agreement with the other person's policy, where even though their policy states no diminished value, in my policy, I have traveler's insurance, and most people have this same policy regardless of what company you have for your insurance. Almost all of them, if you read it, will say does not cover any actual or perceived loss in value due to accidents or damage. So they're not responsible for compensating me for the difference there. I was able to get it, like I said, last time because I didn't have that agreement and I didn't have a policy with that other person's company, and they were liable for my damages, and those were damages, and I was able to prove that, and I was able to get diminished value. But for this, my policy specifically says I cannot get it, and that's the policy. And I don't even know if there's a way to pay extra to have that on your policy. I'm assuming if you pay enough, they will probably give you a provision that allows you to get diminished value. And maybe it would have paid for itself if I would have done it. But I mean, I had no, I didn't expect to ever get into another accident. I figured I had enough bad luck from the last one that I was good for a while, but apparently not. So anyway, diminished value is out of the question, sadly. I mean, I did get $7,000 diminished value from the last accident, which was probably a pretty generous settlement for just the one accident. I mean, it's probably not overly generous, but, I think whether it's one accident or two on the Carfax, either way, it's a bad Carfax, and I don't know how much worse it's actually going to get from a second accident. I'm sure it will get worse, but how much more so, I don't know. But I think I'm okay as far as... I don't think I'm super upside down on the car after that diminished value settlement, because I just put that whole settlement and paid down my loan with that. So I don't think I'm going to be upside down too much. I owe about $26,000 still on the car, and hopefully I'd be able to get close to that still on trade-in. Maybe a little less. We'll have to see. But yeah, so that's the first question I wanted to address. Another thing that people say is, dude, it'll never be the same. It's going to be, not drive right, all that kind of stuff. And I heard all those same things last time I was in the accident, and I was reassured by the body shop. The car will drive as good as new. I had other people that had been hit before in other accidents that have said, if you get a good body shop, it will drive just as it did before. And sure enough, in the past almost 12,000 miles I put on the car here, it feels totally normal, feels great. Never had any kind of issues as far as, this is off now because of the accident. So as long as you get a good body shop like I have, thankfully, I think the car will still drive the same. And so that also leads into questions. People are saying, well, what about the structural integrity, the safety, the rigidity of the car after having a roof cut off of it and another one welded on? And that's a thing that I brought up with the owner of the body shop. I talked with him. I trust him a lot. I've gotten to know him pretty well since the last incident, and he was referred by a close friend, so I really trust the guy. And he has said, as well as his shop foreman, who also I asked again today, and he said the same thing, that the roof will actually be stronger after they put this new one on than it was from the factory. The reason for that is they say that for every one spot weld that is done by the robots at the factory when they build these cars, for every one of those welds, they have to do about 3 or 4 welds or 4 or 5 welds in those same areas whenever they're putting their roofs on. And there's so many certification things and things they have to do to make sure the car is safe once again. And because of that, they say those additional welds give it additional strength and rigidity, and so because of that, it will be safer. Again, it sounds a little counterintuitive. I also was worried about the integrity of the roof and the whole vehicle after that, but they have assured me, different people have assured me multiple times now, it will be as safe or most likely safer than it was before, and so it's nothing I need to really worry about as far as that's concerned. Although I still am a little leery of the car, just whether it's cursed or it's the most awesome car ever for saving me twice and protecting me. I don't know. It's still a little uneasy about the car, but as far as technical details goes, it should technically be safer than it was before. And I even had a Mustang 6G forum member post up that he had a buddy that had a 2001 Bullitt Mustang that actually rolled, and he had a whole new roof put on his. And this poster rode in the vehicle, and he said the guy still owns the car to this day, and it feels totally strong, normal, like every other '01 Mustang Bullitt they've ridden in. And so I do have faith that this will be 100% whenever I get it back. A few other suggestions that you guys mentioned here. A lot of people are saying trade it in for another car. You don't want to keep this car. It's cursed. It's bad luck. It's got a mark on its back. Whatever it is, get rid of this car. And I haven't completely gotten rid of that idea because, like I said, I did find another one that's really close to mine and would be really just perfect, basically. But here's the thing. Okay, so I would basically get hammered twice on trade-ins, because if they do a 2018 Bullitt, then okay, I get this car back from the body shop. It's worth way less after 2 accidents. I trade it in. I have all the financing fees and things associated with getting a new car, and then 9 months from now, I'll be upside down on that brand new loan, and then trying to trade that, and it's just going to equal additional negative equity. So it's almost, I don't think financially it would be in my best interest to trade it in. Now, I know some have even mentioned that I could trade this car in, and it usually takes maybe a month or so before a new accident shows up on the Carfax, so I could go to the dealership and be like, oh yeah, it was in an accident last year, totally fine, and try and pass it off like it didn't have the second accident. I find that a little dishonest. I don't know if I would feel good about, trading a car in knowing that it's also just recently been another accident that they don't know about, and kind of lying about it just doesn't feel good to me. And so, again, especially if I'm trading it in for basically the same exact thing, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, aside from just getting a new car and getting rid of that bad juju or whatever it is that there may be associated with it. But the reason why, and I'll get more into this in a second, but I don't want anything else at this point, really. I just want my car, or I want a guard green 2016 Mustang GT. And so, if I wanted something different, then I could say, sure, I can maybe trade it in and just say, hey, there's another accident, but it's not on the Carfax yet, and just be honest with them and still just try and get rid of it this summer. But, like I said, financially, it just probably wouldn't work out for the best. Another suggestion is people said, well, now that it's been 2 wrecks and it's basically worthless, turn it into a track car, just totally build it, go nuts with it, and then buy something else as, your main vehicle. And I wish I was wealthy enough to do that, to just turn this, primary vehicle that, is still worth well over $20,000 into just a track beater. I don't have the room for that. I don't have the money for that. And I also don't have the desire for that. I enjoy track driving, as you saw in my Cadillac video. And, I did track driving in Hellcats, about almost 2 years ago. Lots and lots of fun, but I don't have the time or really enough interest in track driving to, have a dedicated track car and go to all the trouble and work to turn this vehicle into a track car. It just has no interest to me whatsoever. So gonna get rid of that idea. But again, I appreciate the suggestion. It would be cool if it was something I was into, and certainly probably makes sense for other people, but just not for me. And the last question is one of the best questions, I think, is people are saying, well, what happens if there isn't a Bullitt? Because it hasn't been confirmed yet. It hasn't been guaranteed. We saw the teasers, back in January or whatever, or February, one or the other, of, what looks like most likely a 2018 Bullitt there in that rock video that, was shown. And so we saw that. And that's it. We haven't heard anything since. The only real, more concrete evidence we've had is there were spy shots before the refresh was shown of a refreshed Mustang with camouflage on it, testing with torque thrust larger wheels on it that have yet to be shown. They're not wheels available on any of the current 2018 Mustang range. We see all the wheels already. We know what all the wheel options are for the 2018s, and this is not one of them. So I feel like they probably are making one if they're going to the trouble of, casting and designing a brand new wheel, and it's, good enough to be on cars being tested already. Why would they go to all that trouble if they're just going to can the project and not do a Bullitt? So I'm still fairly confident there is a Bullitt, but I've heard also there's been people that have talked to Ford executives in the past few weeks here, and they said, oh, the McQueen family wanted too much money, so we weren't able to do it, and there was just too many setbacks with the project, and they wanted to do one, but now they said they're not going to do one, and maybe they'll do one later on down the road, but not for 2018. And I've been hearing stuff like this from fairly credible sources. Now, again, these are Ford people who, if you ask them, probably wouldn't tell you the truth anyway, because they don't want to spoil the surprise if they are in fact coming out with one. But the discouragement was very specific with we're not doing it. They're saying, a Mach 1 would happen before a Bullitt and all this kind of stuff. So there's a good chance there isn't a Bullitt. So what happens if there is no Bullitt and I can't buy a Bullitt? And that's really the biggest question to me that I still don't know yet. Do I regain faith in this current car and keep it for, the rest of my life still like I was planning on if there was no Bullitt? That's a possibility, given if the roof is actually stronger, and I've been through so much with the car already and it's not worth a whole lot anyway, it kind of would probably be financially best to keep the car. But again, I'm kind of nervous about it. Maybe it is cursed or just it's some kind of bad luck charm. Do I want to risk a third accident and have this car, injure me worse next time? I mean, again, none of this stuff was ever the car's fault. None of it was my fault either. It's just, again, being at the wrong place at the wrong time. But it's just, again, I don't know. I still kind of want to just move on to a new car. So, I certainly would probably wait, until I knew for sure there wasn't a 2018 Bullitt. So come next spring, if there is no announcement, next spring, it's like, okay, well, now what do? Do I just get another 2016 GT? Do I get a 2018 GT? Which is probably the most likely choice at this point, would just be to get a 2018 GT, customize it, basically make my own Bullitt, have a one-of-a-kind 2018 Mustang GT. That would be cool. Or do I go for a Shelby? And I know a lot of people still want me to get a Shelby. Every time I post a Shelby picture on Instagram, it's always like my most popular Instagram picture for a month or more. So I know everyone loves the GT350 still and really would love to see me in one, and I love the vehicle. It was a ton of fun to drive, but I just have a few reservations still with the GT350. Again, I use my Mustang as a daily driver, and I don't know that the GT350 is really best suited as a daily driver. I know there are people that do daily drive them, even drive them in the snow, but with my Mustangs, I drive them in the snow, and I put a lot of miles on them, and there's just oil consumption issues with some of the GT350s. There's the limp mode with the transmission coolers and stuff, and even with the newer ones, it's still not foolproof. And there's even just a good amount of engine failures. I would say about as many engine failures on the forums as there are for the EcoBoosts. And you guys know how paranoid I was about the EcoBoost. I don't want to be paranoid with a car that's twice as expensive. And even if I do have a warranty behind it, it's still just, I don't want to be having to check my oil every week and making sure the car isn't, eating oil, and I don't want to be constantly paranoid about it or have any doubts whatsoever. And I know the 5-liter in the normal GT is bulletproof for the most part, and so I just have a little more comfort in a GT. And I know the 2018 motor is all new, so there is some unknowns there. So again, that's just, we'll have to see what happens, next spring, but I don't foresee myself doing anything before then, unless, like I said, I get the car back and it just really spooks me out still or something, then maybe I'll just eat my losses and, get into another GT. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I know a lot of people want me to get other vehicles, but you guys know I love the Mustang. That's what I want. And I don't want anything else. I just enjoy it. I know that it's not the most exciting for you guys to see me drive a stock Mustang GT around. But for me personally, it's just the best fit. It's what I just enjoy the most. And, hopefully you guys will just enjoy seeing me drive other cars in the reviews, and I drive them for, a few hours or a day or a week, and that's it. And then I'm done with it, instead of, owning a car that I'm not as passionate about. I want to own a car that I really love and don't have any concerns. And so yeah, but that's it as far as all the updates on the Mustang here. Hopefully it answered most of your questions. Any other questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comments below. I want to answer your questions and make sure that, I have all the bases covered. And if there are things that I haven't thought of, that I haven't addressed, or, maybe new ideas as far as, what to do about this thing, I always welcome your guys' opinions. I don't have it all figured out. I don't know everything. So I always welcome any, insider knowledge you guys have. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this very comprehensive summary of what all's been going on in the past few days and what all has been, swirling around in my head. And like I said, I definitely welcome any thoughts you guys have on the matter. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll keep you posted on any further updates in the future. Take care.